I would like to make a disclaimer before the show begins, and it is that this show contains both subjects and topic of adult nature, like compassion and equality and diversity, and yes, a fair amount of social and political talk, as well as spoilers about the show. So please, please, please do listen and watch at your discretion. Thank you very much indeed for being there.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GMS Magazine podcast. I am Paco Garcia.
And I'm Sean Harris.
And today we are not going to talk about role-playing games, but it's going to be pretty cool because we are going to be talking about Lovecraft Country. And word of warning, we are not going to hold back on the spoilers. Just so you know, at the time of recording this, I still haven't watched the last episode, and yet Sean has full permission from my part to spoil whatever is necessary, because if I ask her not to, Sean, if I ask you not to spoil this for me, you're just going to tell me to F off, aren't you?
Okay, maybe we have like 5 minutes of footage.
Okay, there is an awful lot of things to talk about Lovecraft Country. So why don't we get out of the way, first and foremost, the story as a story and how it's been treated within the episodes, because I have some issues about the editing of the whole thing. What do you make of it?
Right. I watched the show with my mom. It's our little family bonding time. Mm-hmm. And one thing I kind of explained to her was like, okay, that I haven't read the book, and frankly, I have issues with book purists when it comes to adaptations in general. But like in this specific case, when the book author is white and you have an adaptation being created by a team of Black creatives, I kind of got an issue saying that the white dude gets it better. But there's also structurally, and this is probably some naivete on my part, but it's like and this is something that I'm going to answer your question, but I have to set up context first.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
It's your podcast.
So when I was reading and listening to a lot of non-Black people respond to this show, especially like in the first half of the season, I felt like, and the things that they were complaining about, like structurally or character-wise and all that, and I was like, I was getting increasingly frustrated by those takes, because it's like, look, because of the underlying, I don't want to say the underlying assumption, but there are some really shitty notions that we've absorbed about Black art. Mm-hmm. And it is connected to the shitty notions we absorb about Black people. Mm-hmm. And to paraphrase a longer Tumblr post, the notion is this: Black people are dumb and lazy. Mm-hmm. Therefore, everything we create is dumb and lazy. It requires no discipline, no rigor, no real imagination, no
sophistication.
Yeah, there's no sophistication in our art. You know, if you don't get it, it's not because you lack. It's not because you need to learn more to appreciate it. It's that there's something wrong with what the art is. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, people say, well, Shakespeare, but people point out that Shakespeare's geography in his plays was a little off. But we understand, but we're told that Shakespeare is a genius so much. And I love Shakespeare. I'm a playwright, okay? And we're told that he's a genius, so we look for the genius in his work. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the thing I was kind of bucking up against. It's like, do I agree with every artistic choice made in this show? No. But I'm also like approaching this the way I do Shakespeare. I'm looking for the genius in the work. Mm-hmm. Even as I'm like looking at certain things and it's like, wow, y'all kind of dropped the ball on some of this shit. But it's like, it's a very ambitious show.
Yes.
Okay, this is not a bog standard adaptation of a novel. This is a very ambitious show. And it's in that context where I kind of like evaluated how well or poorly they did or something. So when I'm talking about when you're talking about the structure, I assume that what they're doing is deliberate, even if they don't necessarily explain that to me. So I was like, okay, so something I was noticing is I was like, wait a minute. And I was kind of explaining to Mom, it's like, I don't understand what's going on. It's like, okay, I think I understand what's happening with the structure. It's kind of a anthology where like you start with this particular portion of a story, and then in the next portion of the story, you focus on a different character, kind of shift genres a bit. And then in the next portion of the story, you kind of focus on a different character and shift genres a bit. And that seemed to carry up until about episode 6. But again, and then there's the finale, which is I just want to drop kick. But I'll get to that later. But the way it was happening, so you like in the first one, you have like that kind of Lovecraftian, that overtly Lovecraftian aspect. And then you have like this kind of almost political intrigue kind of story. Mm-hmm. And then, and that's like that first one was focused on, you introduce Tick, Letty, Uncle George. And then you like continue that, and then it kind of shifts a bit with Tick, Letty, Uncle George. And then the third episode, you focus on Letty, and you have a haunted house story, which is almost a completely different genre from the one we saw before. Yet not. Yet it's not. It's a completely different genre. Yet the core themes remain the same. And then there's the fourth episode again. And then there's the fourth episode, which is like your pulpy adventure type story. And then there's the fifth episode where you have like the body horror and the psychological horror. And then there's the sixth episode where it's like, and it focuses on all these people in different ways. So that's what I saw happening structurally. It's like it's just a different structure, not a wrong one. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that and then this is not about the structure itself, but about the show, but it's connected to the structure. When the show pushes the boundary like that, when it actually has the guts to do something unexpected that way, or kind of challenge our notions of how a story is supposed to unfold, it's actually very interesting and compelling stuff. But when it tries to fall back on the mainstream type shit, it kind of falls short. Just like when the show focuses on these characters and their relationships, it really shines.
Yes.
But when you start shoving plot, it doesn't fall apart. It's just like, who gives a shit? I mean, it's like, because when they stopped treating them like characters and started treating them like, pieces in a plot puzzle, that's when I kind of disengaged.
Well, to me, I had a couple of issues with some of the decisions they made. Well, firstly, I found it a bit incongruous, which I know maybe I'm picking a bit too much into this, but I found a little bit incongruous that, for instance, one of the things that they describe how magic is this almost unattainable thing, and one person could be considered themselves lucky if they learn one spell in their lifetime. Mm-hmm. But yet, the characters find themselves going through this never-ending chasm that appears out of nowhere over a wooden pole that begins to disappear. And it's a bit, wait a second. I thought this was really, to disappear just to find a door that has to be operated with the blood of the descendant of of the founder of the order. Wait a second. I thought it was really hard to do.
Right.
This feels more like some sort of D&D kind of fantasy magic than anything else. Or, for instance, in one of the later episodes, when the Hellhound appears out of nowhere when the police is killing the whole thing, and it's a bit, and then the episode ends with him petting the poor little animal, and you're left thinking that, excuse me?
Right. I can explain that.
Okay, I'd love to hear that, because
that.
what was a bit what?
Okay, in that episode, when Christina showed, like, they're in that mausoleum, and Christina shows Tick that symbol. She draws that symbol in the dust.
Yep.
That is like the thing that summons the Shaga, the Hellhound, and it because Montrose used his blood to draw that symbol. The monster is bound to Tick. Is bound to Tick and it's bound to like that family. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a detail. It's like, again, and it's like it's one of those situations where I hope I wasn't paying attention to something else with it, because it's missed once, and you're like, if you missed it, or like if there's something else going on at the time that's a little more in your face, you probably didn't catch it. I had to watch a lot of these episodes more than once to catch some of that information. So it's not a slight on anybody.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, but like I said, you have to. When I say I look for the genius in the work, it's like, okay, I must have missed something, and I did. So I was like, oh, that's when they explained it. Okay, gotcha. Moving right along. But yeah.
Okay, what do you make? Because to me, I have to say, I was not expecting the story when it started. I really was not expecting the story to have such historical racial background to it. It really caught me unawares, and I was like, wowed by the whole thing.
Yeah.
To the point that, me being Spanish and not being, very well versed in U.S. culture, I had no idea that sundown towns existed.
Yeah, neither do most Americans.
It was, and to be honest, it was such a horrific concept that I believed it to be, this is a made-up thing. This is just another aspect of fantasy. They're just, as you said, it's pulpy, so this is something hyperbolic. When I found out that was real, that was a bit, oh my goodness, what the hell?
Yeah.
How was it for you as a Black person to actually see all those things represented on the screen like that, without any kind of shield or sheltering, or sugarcoating it in any way, shape, or form? What was it like for you?
For me, it was kind of affirming, because I knew about a lot of that history before I even watched the show. And again, my parents grew up during Jim Crow, and they told me things that happened to them and to their members of their family. For instance, my late uncle, one of my late uncles, was waiting at a bus stop, minding his business, going to either work or to school. I think he was a young man at the time. And some cops just showed up and beat the crap out of him, knocked out his front teeth. And they did that because they thought he was another person they were looking for. So, I grew up with stories like that. My dad told me stories about how he used to walk to school, and he grew up in Clan Country, not far from where I live now. And, they used to throw bottles and stuff at him. So seeing it on HBO it's not very shocking to me. It's just like, oh, okay. In a way, it's like, and it's kind of weird to say it like that. Like, wow, it's affirming. But so much of that history is sugar-coated in general, and the actual horror of it doesn't sink in. So, to see it presented as horrific, it eased my mind a bit because this is not they're taking it seriously and not in a this is a special educational message kind of way. Well, when they weren't preaching or weren't trying to get didactic about it, for instance, this is just the reality they had to deal with, and seeing it presented that way, like without this, without that preaching or teaching aspect, it's just good. It's good.
It's cathartic, yes, because it's at last it's being acknowledged as it was and not as people would like to remember, not to feel bad about it. Yes.
Right. Yeah. It's like, those places were real. Like all the bad shit you see white people do without magic was actually done. Okay, like in the third episode with all the mutilations and stuff, that was actually done. Like the experiments on Black people, that's actually done. I mean, look up the Tuskegee experiments about syphilis, which is a horrific disease. Look up gynecology as a field. All that stuff was real. So, so I'm not. So it's like, good. And I'm kind of tough to shock anyway. So, but having these presented as horrific and not as like, well, this is going to show the triumph of the human spirit, or some kind of try to turn it into like a kind of uplift, try to make it more uplifting than it was. It's like, no, soul crushing horror of it was most of the time.
One thing I liked about I think a lot, and I thought these little shows, well, not little at all, but these shows of genius in the show, it's how they mixed some of the music with some of the action going at the time.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was whenever in one of the episodes when white people were doing some shitty thing, and there was this song about how Black people didn't. I can't remember the name. I don't know the name of the song. I'm so sorry, but how Black people don't have schools, but that's okay because the white is on the moon, and Black people are being killed by the police, but that's okay because the white is on the moon. And I thought, holy cow! I mean, the music has absolutely nothing to do with the atmosphere or anything at all, but it's still so poignant. It's making such an amazing point within the series. And I thought, whoever thought about doing this, big balls. Big, huge balls.
The so-called anachronistic music. I think that aspect kind of put some people off. I was like, what are you talking about? This is the 50s. Why are they playing this modern shit? The point is that the story takes place in the 50s, but the shit's still the same. The same shit we were dealing with then is a lot of the same shit we're dealing with now. Okay, legalized segregation, but come on, there's de facto segregation. And and it's sort of like using that modern, like introducing those contemporary elements in that like period piece, like is a great way to make it say, hey, this stuff's still relevant. And I like the stuff where they use the spoken word poetry. It was that, and there was the for colored girls who considered suicide. Yeah, for colored girls who considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. When like Ruby is pretending to be the white woman, and all she's doing is sitting in the park reading the damn paper. Then there's in episode 9 with Sonia Sanchez is like the fire poem, and because all that stuff like. It's just, because it's all that stuff. It's like a big cultural kind of. It's a very culturally rich show. It's not afraid to be that.
Absolutely. It's one of the things, you know how you hear an awful lot of people when you're talking about comic books or role-playing games, and how they say, well, no, this is nothing to do with politics. I don't want any real life within it. This show, it's going to be, in the fullness of time, it's going to be completely impossible to pretend that there isn't a very intentional cultural input and message within it. You're not going to be able to look like some people try to look at the X-Men and not realize what the X-Men is actually all about. It's impossible to do that. And I think that is such a brave thing to have done with the show. I think that is, hats off to the producers.
Yeah, all those naysayers, like, no, don't make it too black. You're going to alienate viewers. Nah.
Yep. Here it is, as black as it can get. How absolutely amazing.
As a matter of fact, when it tried to, I'm going to put it this way. It's not when it stopped being too black as hell. I'm not going to say that. It's like when the show was about using Lovecraftian horror as a prism to explore Black humanity, all those high notes were there. It's like, yes, do more of this, do more of this, do more of this. But when it stopped being that, when it tried to get into, your typical, oh wait, we need a good guy and a bad guy, or oh wait, we need to wrap up all these, plot threads. And it's like, once they started thinking like that, or once the show seemed like it was thinking like that, that's when I lost interest. Because then it started doing the same shit we see everywhere else. Messy, complex Black humanity. Here I am. But then it's like, oh man, but no. This is the hero. These are the villains, and this is how you're supposed to feel about this, that, and the third. Yeah, no, screw you, bye. It's like, no. Yeah, because I loved it when the show was like this sci-fi horror, this genre show for adults. And it's like, again, this is one of my frustrations with it, especially not with the show, but with non-Black people's reactions to it. I'm like, what the fuck were you expecting watching this? Harry Potter with tentacles? It's like, this is not, those that, and I wonder if this has to do with like people whose entire media consumption habits revolves around media for and about kids. And I include teenagers in this. So YA and all that shit, if that's where most of your media habits are focused on. And I'm like, look, in the real world with grown people are messy, people are complicated. There are nothing is simple. And the distinction between stuff for adults and stuff for children is that the gore and the sex and all that, the violence and the cussing and all that's not what makes the show for adults. It's the messy, complex human realities. And yet, people want to apply this simplistic, reductive thing, but who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Who am I supposed to root for? What am I supposed to think? What am I supposed to feel? And it's like, this ain't the show for that. At least at its best, that ain't the show for that. And it's just like, look, y'all have you have a whole fucking television series about Hannibal Lecter and he eats people. And you can't handle this show. And this show is a bridge too far. Like, please get it. Y'all back. just please. But yeah.
That's the one thing I did like an awful lot, though, that every single character is messed up in some way, shape, or form. And they are unashamedly, from the story point of view, unashamedly messed up. They don't see, and even some of them. The one thing that I was a bit, did you have to give me some moralistic? You're messed up. Why did you have to do that? What didn't you just give me characters? I am messed up because of the things I've done. But there seems to be a bit of poor thing, kind of at times. I was a bit, don't know.
It depends on which character you're talking about here, because if you're talking about Montrose,
no, I'm talking. I mean, one of the ones was Atticus.
right?
You know, what Atticus was a bit. He was a freaking asshole in the war. He
Yes.
murdered people left, right, and center. Had absolutely no, remorse, no issues killing women because he needed a confession from somebody,
Right.
and he was doing that for a country that openly hated him.
Yes.
And then they kind of
pull back from it.
Yes.
Yeah, they pull back from it.
And I was like, why did you have to do that? He was messed up. And that would make perfect sense because he has grown up in an environment that was nauseous as hell, societally speaking.
Yeah. Not to mention, growing up in an abusive home with a dad who verbally and physically abused him. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, but yeah, it's like the show kind of wanted to have it both ways with Tick. They want Tick to be the hero and they want Tick to be complicated and more, and a bit morally gray. And you can't have both of those. You can't have both of those because if you establish that all of these characters are complex and messed up, it can't be like all of a sudden, oh, he's the hero, so the narrative is going to forgive him or whatever. And look, and I talk about this, and I talk about this kind of, I'm talking about it more now. And that is some Protestant Christian shit. Okay? Because I'm Jewish, okay? And the thing about Jewish tradition, number one, we ain't got saints.
Mm-hmm.
No human being is infallible in our tradition. Everybody fucks up. Everybody.
Absolutely.
It's a given. And even our most revered figures, even Moses, even the sages, after the destruction of the Second Temple, even even people like King David, even Abraham, all our folks was fucked up. Even our heroes were fucked up. But all of them were a mess. I mean, just read Genesis. It's like there's a mess of a family drama. But and they still achieve these great things. But it's look, these people are still messed up. And so it's but I think the way Protestant Christians, or I say evangelical Christianity wants to have it, it's well, I can't have my hero being messed up. So I'm gonna downplay how messed up they are. Or kind of be well, it's not really his fault or blah blah blah. And it's because in a more Protestant or puritanical mindset, sin or evil is a personality trait. Sin or evil is a state of being, not a behavior. Whereas in the Jewish tradition, no sin or evil, they're behaviors. That's why we don't really concern ourselves so much as well. What's really in your heart? I mean, we care, but look, if you do the right thing for a selfish reason, at the end of the day, you still did the right thing. Versus, doing something horrible. But but the narrative wants to say, but yeah, Tick did these things, but he's really a good guy under all that. We promise. And it's I'm sorry, you can't have it both ways. You can't show us Tick having, being a messed up person and then trying to be no, but he's really a good guy. And and then there's the fact they don't really address Tick's misogyny or his homophobia, and it's and it's not that they don't address it. It's like you said, it's they want Tick to be the hero, but you're not. But you don't want to confront his bullshit.
Yes, absolutely yes. But I think that is a trend that I'm seeing in many American productions of late, and is that the main theme for an awful lot of series and characters is redemption.
Right.
Is that they find somehow a way to redeem themselves. And in this particular case, for Tick, it was when Jiha nearly kills him, and he has this epiphany about his life and how he has to change things. But as you say, then there are some aspects like his homophobia or the misogyny that are left completely unaddressed. And I can only guess that the reason they've done that is because they've taken it for granted, that was just the way people was, and everybody was the same, and that's why it doesn't matter. We don't need to talk about it because that's how it was.
Right. But again, you can't do that and then be like, no, Tick's really a good guy under and all that. We promise. It's like
it doesn't work like that.
Right. Compare like someone like Tick to a character like Montrose, who's, oh boy.
There is a lot to unpack in that character.
Library of issues, that
yes.
man. But he's one of my, first because I love the actor in that role. Mm-hmm. But he's one of my favorite characters to watch in the show. And it's like, what? You like Montrose? He's awful. And I'm like,
but he's raw.
Judging these characters is precisely why I get so irritated. So it's like, that's the whole thing. Montrose is like the epitome, like it's the peak of that kind of writing they were doing. Mm-hmm. Where, he's messy. He's a deeply traumatized man.
Yes.
Deeply traumatized man. And then, and that's just, like, again, we're just looking at his home life. And then if you look at the world he lives in, you have the destruction of Tulsa. Mm-hmm. You have the fact that this is the 50s and they could lobotomize your ass for being gay. Or better yet, this is the 50s. You could go to prison for being gay.
Mm.
You can lose, and there's so much. It's like, and I think like a lot of younger people who, again, not as historically astute, are basing this on like, look, they don't really grasp how dangerous it was for LGBT people. Really, really don't. And he, on top of that, he's not only LGBT, he's a Black man.
Yeah.
A dark-skinned Black man.
He had pretty much everything against him, didn't he?
Yeah. The only thing he wasn't was a woman.
Not true.
and all that. But then it's like he has all that toxic masculinity shit. I'm like, oh my God. He is a mess. But he's a human being, It's like he's not just a mess, It's like why he's like that. It doesn't, and unlike they kind of do with Tick, it's like they don't absolve his actions, but you see where it comes from, and you get some compassion for him, and it's like, okay, this is not a monster.
Mm-hmm.
This is a person who's extremely fucked up, and and it's like, and all of that, the worst things he does come from trying to protect his family. I mean, like at the end of the day, like no matter how awful he was to Tick, no matter how, but at the end of the day, he genuinely loves his family. He genuinely wants to protect them. The way he goes about it is awful. But then you have to understand, okay, what tools does he have? Like, where is he supposed to learn? Like can we not, abuse the shit out of our children to raise them? I mean, like where is he supposed to learn that? He's passing on what was done to him.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's just, and it was like, so there's a lot. It's like, yeah, it's just like a lot of stuff he does is horrific, but it's like, it's deeply sad because nobody deserved the hand he was dealt.
True.
But yeah, at the same time, dude, you got to be better than this.
Yes, I think it's from that point of view. To me, Monrose is the best character in the series. Probably, I really, really liked it. Can we talk about Ruby?
Yes,
Because that is also, I thought at some points, wow.
oh, what an amazing character. Again, it's like, I think, as far as the writing of the characters goes, the actors, every actor in this cast was phenomenal. I love them all, and and the vast majority of the characters I like. Like Tick, I was kind of like mad about. I'm not gonna lie, because I know he's the strong, good black man I'm supposed to be. So it's like there's nothing new there for me. But Ruby has my heart. I'm unashamed of it. And this is, I guess, where I'm going to get into some spoiler territory. Like,
go for it.
But like I said in one of my recordings, and I'm going to share it with you after we finish this. Ruby, in that show, Ruby is a character most like me.
Okay.
Appearance-wise, yes. I mean, she's a plus-size black woman. I'm a plus-size black woman. She's not light-skinned. I'm not light-skinned. And both of us are queer.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck what this het say. She wanted to fuck Christina so bad from the moment she found out. But anyway, and so, and it's like, and just like not just like representation wise, but like just like Ruby, I'm over this phase now. But I used to be on the respectability politics shit. Mm-hmm. I used to think, if you work hard enough, if you get a good education, if your life, you'll be successful. You'll have something to show for it. I worked very hard, to get a good education. I worked very hard to find, employment. And we're not going to talk about my employment situation because that's depressing. Mm-hmm. And I've seen people who didn't work as hard as I did get further than me. And and it's like I did everything I was supposed to do. I didn't get knocked up. I didn't get hooked on drugs. I didn't go to jail. And the thing in my family is like, hey, don't become a statistic.
What a great, that's amazing.
So in a way I kind of I kept my focus on my schoolwork. I didn't do the wild crazy parties. I was well behaved, all law-abiding citizen and all that shit. And I don't have the life I was told I was going to have because I did that. Like Ruby, I followed all the rules. Mm-hmm. I was responsible. And I have nothing really to show for that. And people who didn't try as hard as me have it's an opportunity to fall in their laps. So I understand her frustration and her anger. And then, on top of that, being, a large black woman, a large queer black woman in a world that hates me for being all those things. And seeing the injustices that, visited upon people like me, upon queer people, upon women, upon black people, upon people of color, and people just getting away with the absolute worst. It's just, it's enraging. And then, I watch this show and I feel seen for once. Then I hop online and the bullshit starts. Fuck Ruby, she wants to be white. Or fuck Ruby for blah, 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 blah. Or, And there's all this bullshit, where they like completely flatten her character. And it's like, and they let loose all their hatred of fat black women, of queer black women, of queer fat black women. And it's like the same old shit. And it's like, and like Ruby, I'm tired. The same people, all these, the same, and I'm airing some goddamn dirty laundry about black folks right now. Black girl magic this, protect black women at all costs that, but except, the queer ones. Except the fat ones. Except the dark-skinned ones. Except, in my case, the Jewish ones. And, and it's coming from the mouths of people who think they're so fucking woke. And it's, you can tell right now I'm very upset. Because I don't, and the actor and the actress later talks about how, like, I really censor myself because I can't. Because if I don't, you're going to see me as aggressive and hostile all the time. And it's like, and then at the same time, I am angry. Because of all this shit I have to deal with. And the people who's supposed to hold me up kick me the fuck down. And I'm tired of that shit. I'm tired of it. And so, and Ruby deserved way better than she got in the finale. She deserved, her tall, skinny mama to ride off in the sunset in that silver car and fuck each other's brains out till they die. And it's like, but Christina is like, you know what? Fuck what you heard. Christina's the only fucking person who gave a damn about Ruby.
Yeah, I was so taken by the fact that Christina truly cared about Ruby, and she cared about Ruby, not about the white woman that she dressed up as. Mm-hmm. Whenever I saw, the questions raised, which even Ruby has to confront at some point, about you put on your white skin because you can, because you want to. And I was left. I remember leaving that episode thinking, you know what, I would do the same. If I were living, or I think I would do the same. I cannot presume to know, but I think I would do the same. And I thought, good on her that she's taken this privilege, this immense freedom and privilege, and using it, as you say, to get ahead of the game, because she's done everything she was supposed to do, and it just didn't work out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there was a scene in particular that I thought it was so moving to me. It was gross, but incredibly moving, when they start making love and she starts to shed her white skin to reveal herself. Mm-hmm. in the middle of the whole coitus. Mm-hmm. I thought that is amazing. Love it. I just looked at that and thought, what a beautiful way to say, at the end of the day, this person cares about you, mm-hmm. for you, with all your nastiness, with everything that drops off you, all your baggage, all the everything. She's the person who actually cares for you.
Yeah. And it's ironic, because she grew up in a cult of racist white business. and that touches on something that frustrates me about people's reactions to the ship. It's like, but she's evil white bitch this. fuck Christina that. I'm like, you know what? Kiss my ass. Ain't nobody else in that show taking care of Ruby that way. And I don't mean sexually. It's, plus size, dark skinned, queer Black women don't get that. Ever. Okay? In the real world, they're not lining up for Ruby. They're lining up for Letty. They're lining up for Gia. Hell, they're tripping over themselves, just to get Christina to look at them. So, kiss my ass with that. And yeah, there is a bit of a, screw you to it too, because this person, like, whether it's Christina in her own skin or Christina in her William skin suit, this person who's placed so high, right, only has eyes for this person, this woman whom everybody is taught to despise. Again, that's in my audio. I go into it in my audio. But yeah, and it's like, and they're like, well, why is she choosing Christina, or why is she with this person? I mean, come the hell on. Like, what is she supposed to be lonely and what's she supposed to do? Everybody mule, Ruby, I need this. Ruby, I need that. Okay, you be stepping fetching for everybody, and then have no happiness for herself, no joy for herself, no freedom for herself, no safety for herself, and then not even orgasms for herself. I mean, come on. it's like, if people don't understand the appeal of that ship, or why Ruby's not just not just making this purely about sex, or like a purely transactional relationship. It like, y'all clearly are not paying attention to what plus size, dark skinned, queer Black women have been telling you for decades. And it's like, we were talking about earlier, it's like, I'm sorry, in real life, real human connections do not follow a woke checklist. It never happens that way. Never. In a lot of ways, and you find somebody and you hit it with the person you least expect. It's like, wow, it's like, and yeah, and there's the irony of it. And Ruby is aware of this. She has, like, you know what? If I actually look at this objectively, like, if I look at this on a piece of paper, she should despise Christina with every fiber of her being. Yet, this person, who's not only her polar opposite in a lot of ways, but almost her mortal, like her natural enemy, like cobras and mongooses. This person who she have nothing but antipathy for, cherishes her, woos her, not just pursues her sexually, woos her, romances her, takes care of her, accepts her, listens to her. She understands her in her limited, really fucked up way. But
Christina is even vulnerable in front of Ruby. That's the thing that got to me. It's like, look, this is bad for me to tell you. I shouldn't be saying this to you, but this is what I want to do, and this is what I need your help for. This is me.
Mm-hmm.
I was a bit, wow, now. That's powerful.
Yeah, and it's like, look, there's a chemistry between the actresses is off the charts. Like, they need to play a happy lesbian couple in something in the future.
Yes.
Y'all, they should play a happy lesbian couple in the future. But, like, I don't get this insistence that everything has to be in this neat little box, or this, and then wrap this up and then tie this up in a nice little bow. It's like, that is not life, people. Nothing works like that. It's like, God, actually, it's like, and I was watching the show. It's like, before, and I'll be honest, it's like, before I discovered that Christina felt this way toward Ruby, it was like, I enjoyed it, but I wasn't really gripped. But then I looked at this, I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. Ruby's own family just takes advantage of her all the time. You know, only want to be family when they want something from her. And I'm speaking specifically of Letty here. And I'm not hating on Letty for this. Good. We need Black women with some realistic fucking flaws like being selfish. You know, there's a realistic flaw. We all have that fucking family member. You know, we all have that person in our family who only come around when they want something. So, you know, so I'm not hating on Letty for this. But like, why does the sapphic relationship have to be so goddamn woke? I mean, look, Tick is a whole box of issues, and nobody's saying that okay, I'm not gonna lie. Some people did say, you know what, them hooking up like that, it sets up red flags. And I understand that. But the way Tick treated Letty, some of the stuff he did, like just basically climbed on her and fucked her, didn't even like no foreplay, no nothing, and didn't even think for 2 seconds, hey, wait a minute. You know, he just assumed she was fast, assumed that she was a slut, and it turns out she was a virgin. And he didn't feel shit, I guess. I mean, like, oh, well, no big deal. I'd have felt like shit if I'd done that. That's just me. But, you know, when it's a straight couple, right, when it's a straight couple on its way to becoming a standard nuclear family, okay, it's okay for, you know, for the both partners to be deeply flawed people, you know, with some ish with him, because like we talked about, Tick is fucking misogynist. Tick is fucking homophobic. Okay, and just because he's not white does not make that less harmful. Well, okay, he can do less damage on a structural level, but if he has a gay child, if that baby in Letty's belly turns out to be a girl, you know, that all of issues don't become less, you know, it doesn't become less fucked up. And the same thing with Christina, you know, like, well, she's racist, she's a fucking white supremacist. It's like, well, duh, it's the goddamn 50s. Ain't nobody trying to give her the John Brown Award, okay? It's just, she's like a bunch of white folks. It's like, you know, I don't actively hate Black people, but I just don't care what happens to them. I'm like, what's the point of me getting mad? It's like, oh, she just like everybody else. Okay. Unlike, say, someone like Lancaster, harming, like actively seeking out Black people to hurt them. You know, it goes beyond indifference to active malevolence. And then somebody like brought up a good point to contrast the two of them, where it's like, yeah, I know that like maybe a few years ago, it would make sense for Christina to be the big bad, because a few years ago, the worst type of white person were the indifferent ones. Like that was the worst we could imagine. No, not really the worst, but that was what we were dealing with on a daily basis. But now, in 2020, after Charlottesville, we have active fascists, active Nazis in our government. The Christinas of the world pluck my nerves, but the Captain Lancasters are in positions of power. And they're the ones like sending bomb threats to synagogues and shit. And and it's like, I'm sorry, it's like, I get it. It's easy to hate on white women in general, and Lord knows they pluck my nerves sometimes. It's like Karen's and Becky's, y'all need to cut, y'all need to stop. But we've got bigger fish to fry. I'm like, the person who's actively trying to kill me is not Christina. Oh, she ain't gonna do shit if she see me being murdered, but I mean, she's not actively trying to kill me. the person actively trying to kill me is the Lancasters, or the Lancasters of the world. The police departments.
Mm-hmm.
So not just the police, but the institutions actively trying to kill me. She was being selfish and full of herself or whatever, indifferent, whatever.
Yeah, but if you don't cross her, she doesn't do anything to you. She just doesn't care if anything happens to you.
Yeah.
So there's a different level of malevolence. It's one thing is to be unempathic and indifferent and inconsiderate, and the other thing is actually hating and proactively murderous. So they can actually, by the way, use your body to enhance theirs, which is all sorts of messed up.
That was so ill.
That was wow. That was a bit. Wow.
And I'm not talking about that dude in the closet either. It's like funny with this show. I was just like, there's gonna be a gross out moment every episode. Just like you don't even know which episode. I joke with my mom. It's like every episode of this show, there's gonna be fucking and somebody's gonna be covered in blood. But yeah, ew, with like Lancaster, like he has his head attached to a black body. Ew. And then you see like how he got that. And then there's this dude in the closet with like no tongue or some shit. And I'm like, ew. Like, ugh.
Yeah, it was all sorts of messed up. I just thought, oh my God, they have done this on purpose because it's impossible that this is, in any way, shape, or form by do this. This was done very much on purpose.
Yeah. And that is some body horror type shit. And that is the body horror. Like, okay, the metamorphosis butterfly coming out of the cocoon, pieces of white ruby like falling all over the place. Okay, I can handle that. Like, oh my God, what the hell? What is this? Why is his torso black? What's going on here? And they never explain it, and that's what makes it so disturbing. What is with this? It's like, that like I was so scared for Ruby in that scene because again, if she gets caught by Lancaster, she's dead.
Yes.
Like, not even magic shenanigans happening or having a dude tied up in your closet. Just the fact that she's a black person where she's not allowed to be, is life-threatening. And because she just put the thing in there and left, and she wouldn't have that problem. But she had to go see what was in the closet. So it's like, but then she's like, wow, white people are way more fucked up than you think they are. And then the thing with Ruby, and it's like, yeah, I was so scared. I was like, girl, and she had to hide in a closet with that dude.
They finished they finished that episode and left us hanging.
You were with him this whole fucking time. Okay. Yeah, but I understand. Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off. But, that episode was so well done with that. There's that whole girl with the dragon tattoo moment that Ruby has, and people have explained that ad nauseum. I think, the way people use like sexual violence in a very gratuitous, grotesque way. And I'm not gonna I'm not gonna delve into it. There are other places that talk about it, but I will say that if it didn't bother you when it was the girl with the dragon tattoo, I really don't want to hear your opinion about that. If it didn't bother you when it was the best salad, I don't give a shit what you think. Now, if it did bother you when it was Liz Best Salader, hey, we can have a conversation. But look, it's the same. It's almost the exact same scenario. As a matter of fact, the girl with the dragon tattoo was even more extreme in that particular regard.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough indeed. I have a question because this is something that you and I have touched before we started recording, and we're going on an hour now, and we could be here for a very long time. But I will
packing this show.
I think we should do another one when I've managed to watch the finale, which I think it should come out this Friday in Spain, hopefully. But I want to ask you about Jada and the Curse. Because those two little girls scared the crap out of me. Seriously, I was genuinely disturbed by the whole thing. The makeup, the moves, the whole situation. What the hell was that about?
Like most things in the show, it's complicated. Topsy and Bopsy, I think, are. I refuse to get my answer this, but I think Topsy and Bopsy were. There's a couple of things going on. Now I'm going to use a racial slur. And I'm going to use this slur because you need to know what I'm talking about. So you can look it up. And I'm going to need listeners who ain't black not to use the fucking word. Topsy and Bopsy are what we call a pickaninny stereotype. And it's a kind of dancy, smiley, happy-go-lucky black person. Like, it's a stereotype of a caricature of a black person, of black people's. Because, we're jolly, we're happy, we're always having fun and da-da-da-da-da, and dancing. And we're always dancing. So, and the pickaninny stereotype is usually, I wouldn't say usually, often black girls. And not just black girls, but black girls with these exaggerated features. You see with the hair, first of all, ain't nobody black got hair like that, okay? Ain't nobody black will be showing up in public with hair like that. That's how you know it's a stereotype. And then with the red lipstick, the big, how depictions of black folks in I'll say drawn media, comic strips and stuff like that. You had the big red lips and, dance all the time. And I think someone explained it as like these are kind of the caricatures that we impose on black girls. And how they're coming for D is sort of like how, number one, how horrors are inflicted on black girls and people aren't paying attention and they don't notice it. Because to me, more than the actual existence of Topsy and Bopsy, it's the fact that D couldn't tell anyone. And that's scarier to me. It's like it's like demons and shit are scary, but if I can say, look, there's a demon, and people turn around and go, holy shit, it's a demon. It's still scary, but I can manage. Versus, look, there's a demon. I don't see nothing. It's the way like the way the world kind of comes for black girls, and nobody, well, people say they don't see it, and so there's no comment, there's no protection, and and Dee's deeply vulnerable, and it's like people act like she's just acting up, she's just wilding out, she's just being a teenager, whatever. Like there ain't nothing really wrong. There's nothing really wrong going on. Meanwhile, the way it happened, they grabbed this girl off the street. They grabbed Dee off the street and dragged her into an alleyway to do God knows what to her. And they're the euphemisms for sexual assault.
Yes.
So, to me, because they're non-realistic figures, I think they can symbolize many things to many people, Topsy and Bopsy. But that to me is like seeing the way that the world comes after black girls and how vulnerable black girls are. They're the stereo. And it's sort of because when they catch her, she starts to become like them. And I think that's how when those horrors are inflicted on us, and we start, they don't see, oh, this is a girl who's been traumatized, or this is a girl who's been hurt. They just see, well, she's just like that stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's very disturbing on multiple levels.
God, I had no idea about the cultural ramifications of those characters. I thought, that there must be something, otherwise they wouldn't be there. They're not going to invent this thing, and coming out of the cover of the book, it came out. It had to mean something, but I had absolutely no idea of the symbolism, which is. It's absolutely incredible. Look, we should do another episode on this because I think we're leaving an awful lot of things behind, and it would be great to spend another hour, talking about all the characters. We haven't touched on Hippolyta.
Yeah, Hippolyta and George, Gia. Yeah, Letty too, but we always Letitia fucking Lewis is like we get she's really good stuff.
Yeah,
but it's like because there's so many levels to dig under here, both where the show really shines and where it falls short. We get like I said, this show has so much in it, so much to unpack in it. But yes, we need another hour at least.
At least. Let's do that. Let's make the next episode about Lovecraft Country 2. So we can talk a great deal more about everything that we have left behind for the characters, and let's talk about how much does it matter. Because I think about this show, one of the things I like is that if they take the word Lovecraft away and they take even all the paranormal and supernatural things away, there would still be a very, very compelling show with some absolutely amazing plots and people within it. Yeah.
And that's what, like I said before, like when the show is hitting its stride, that's what it does. But then when it's like tries to lean too hard on some of the typical stuff, it's like, nah, that ain't it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and again, this is a majority Black cast, and there's no white savior figure, there's no good white person to project on, No. And it's like, look, I have my Christina is a problematic phase for me in the sense of, I'm yes, cognitively, yes, I'm aware of blah, 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 but it's also like, but emotionally, and I'm like, and I had to get this in that next episode too, I guess. But like, but emotionally, my feelings about her are very complex. But that's everybody, that's all the characters. My feelings are very complex. Like Montrose, for instance. There were moments I saw my own dad in Montrose. And my dad was definitely not gay. If I were a boy, I bet not have been gay. But like I see in Montrose, like my own dad, like that quick to anger element, that harshness, that but at the same time fiercely protective. So it's like I said, my feelings about these characters are deeply complex. And yeah, it's just, yet at the same time, it's like we have all this complexity, all this messiness, and they're Black.
Mm.
Okay, in this genre show with monsters and magic and shit, they're Black. It's like, oh my God, we get our fucking angsty ass soap opera just like everybody else. I know. It's like, I know it's, it's pulpy. It's like, I get it. It's a genre show, so it's got genre stuff in it. But like, oh my God, we get to be a complete fucking mess just like everybody else. And people were like comparing it to Game of Thrones, which is interesting because like you would think the two could possibly be going through. It's like, no, everybody on Game of Thrones is fucked up.
Yep.
Literally in the first episode, you have twin brother and sister fucking each other. And so I'm like,
and trying to kill children and behaving.
Yeah, shoving 10-year-olds out of windows. I'm like, well, Now it's our turn. We get to be a mess on screen too, and I'm deeply happy about that. There you go.
Makes perfect sense to me. Okay, well, let's leave it here for now, and let's return to this next week, where I also want to watch a couple of the episodes again, because we haven't spoken about this mysterious character that comes back to life, and she has everything, and you can see that she has man and she has woman and she's a mystery, and then she gets killed right away. Just a bit, oh, what the hell? we have to talk about that. So, people, listeners, what do you make of Lovecraft Country? We want to hear, opinions, what you saw, what you didn't, what you liked, what you didn't, everything. So get in touch in our Facebook page, because we'd love to hear from you, and say hi in Twitter, where I am at gmsmagazine. I don't know, do you have Twitter, Jean?
Yeah. I have 2 Twitter accounts. I have a professional account where, I cuss a lot less, and then I have like my real account where I share my feelings on something. So my professional account is Sean C. Harris, at Sean C. Harris, and my name spelled SHAWN, C as in Charlie, Harris. But if you want to like follow me for fandom shit and me just like shooting the shit and being kind of irreverent and cheeky, follow me on RVC Bard on Twitter.
We'll do that indeed. But until the next time, listeners, thank you very much indeed for being there. It is genuinely, trust me, it is genuinely appreciated. Look forward to hearing from you, and
yeah,
we'll talk to you very soon.
Mm-hmm.